Okay, good evening. Call this meeting of the Grantsville City Planning Commission to order. It's Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026 at 7 p.m. We're at the Grantsville City Hall at 529 East Main Street in Grantsville, Utah.
Sarah. 429. You said 5.
Oh, thank you. 429 East Main Street. I'm a little dyslexic, so thought I overcome that, but not at this time of night. If you hadn't had a chance to sign in and you're here as a visitor, please sign in. We will, let's see, acknowledge our commissioners here. Gary Merrill, Vice Chair Jason Hill, name is Sarah Moore, and we have our newest member, Cameron Moulton, here present today. John Montgomery is excused, and our alternate, Chris, is not, is he online?
No. Okay,
Chris is also excused. I'd like to ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to remind folks that we have a new meeting format for tonight's public hearing items. We'll follow this, the format of the staff presentations on the individual items. Then we'll hold a public hearing and public comment on each individual item that requires public comment. And then the commission will have an opportunity for discussion and consideration. So we just ask that the public comment portion is limited to 3 minutes for each speaker, and that when you approach the podium, you state your name and address. No, okay, we've always just done the name. So the name is sufficient for the record, and just know that the commission cannot engage in conversations, but your questions may be answered during the commission dialogue on specific items. So we'll open discussion on agenda item 1, which is a presentation and public hearing discussion and commission consideration for the proposed rezone from A10, which is agricultural, to the shopping commercial district CS located at approximately 519 West Main Street. Hi, Shelby.
so I'm just going to present for a minute. Yeah. I'll have you come up for the discussion, Ross. So this is a consideration of a rezone from A10 to CS located on 519 West Main Street. And then I've just highlighted this for you guys. So you have Ross Land Management, and then we're just rezoning this back parcel. So this is already zone CS here, and then it runs through and then CS as we go through. So the surrounding uses are residential development to the north. South is a mixed use residential and commercial uses along Main Street. On the east is commercial properties, and to the west is residential. In the general plan and the future land use, the northern portion of the property is designated mixed use density, supporting the mixture of residential and commercial uses, and the corridor along Main Street supports commercial development and economic development. The proposed rezone supports continued commercial investment along Main Street and orderly, cohesive site planning. As staff, we find that the proposed rezone is consistent with the general plan and future land use. The rezone promotes orderly commercial development along Main with the proper site design, and buffering the future development can be compatible with adjacent properties.
That's great. Thank you, Shelby.
All right, I'm giving you used to the new format.
That's good. So we'll begin with then the public hearing for agenda item number 1. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on this item besides the applicant? If you'd like to speak, please approach the podium. Is there anybody online? If there's somebody online that would like to speak on this item during the public hearing, would you please raise your hand?
And then just note for the record, staff did not receive any emails or calls regarding this result.
Okay. So
Nobody
Shelby would
online.
like to note that the staff has not received any comments through emails or phone calls, and we had received none here in this meeting, so we'll close the public hearing if there are no further comments. So we'll bring this item back to commission for discussion and consideration.
Shelton Ross.
Shelton, hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. So does anybody have any questions for Shelton?
What do you plan on doing with that?
RV,
parcel?
RV storage, which I'm in the middle of getting the conditional use permit as well for that.
Yeah,
So-
so
Oh, sorry, just as RV storage for rent, people come in, you just store the RVs and just
Mhm.
go there.
and that is a conditional use on the zoning table. I did supply that in the staff report so that you guys can see what uses would be allowed in the CS zoning if this were to be developed out to something other than RV storage. So
But we're just addressing the zoning right now and not the
Correct.
conditional use permit
correct.
request. Okay. Karen, did you have any other questions for?
No,
Okay.
no.
Jason?
Question, this is partly for Shelby. When we go back through the rezone, we talked about, you mentioned the buffer, what they're gonna use for a buffer. Is that something we're gonna deal with now with the rezone, or that's something we'll do in the conditional use?
That would be a conditional use or when it's developed out.
I do have a question regarding that buffer, what we do, but if they're gonna answer that later, then I'll hold off. I have no other questions.
Okay, Jason, do you have any other
Nope.
comments for Shelton? All right.
Gary?
Gary,
I'm looking at the packet, it's pretty straightforward to me. I mean, seems like it's just it's a rezone that needs to happen to be like it says, for more continuity through the commercial zone. Yeah, I think this is just probably long overdue.
okay. I don't know if this is the part or if this is part of the conditional use permit. Is there gonna be like covered storage for RVs there, or are they just open air?
No, no covered. Just open air.
Okay,
That whole lot won't have any structures on it at all.
cool. That's awesome. And so how many RVs do you expect to
Probably about 75
serve? Okay, is that like a seasonal thing or is that year round?
year round. Storage only, no living.
Did I say something about like drive-through? No living? That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Thank you. I'll remember that when you
Yeah.
come back for the conditional use permit. I thought I saw something about driving through, but I guess they're just driving through and parking and then leaving. We don't expect much more increase in traffic or anything.
So besides the rezone, if we were to go to when he applies for the conditional use permit and that is brought to planning commission, he has to submit a site plan. We have to look at the parking dimensions and see how many he can actually fit in there and look at the turning. And so those are things that would be addressed.
All with the conditional use.
Yes.
Okay. Super. Thank you. I just thought I saw something about driving through, but this all looks good. Thank you for your thorough information that you've provided in the staff recommendations and the maps. They were extremely helpful. I don't have any further questions or concerns, so I'm open to considering a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed rezone from A10 agricultural to commercial shopping district CS located at approximately 519 West Main Street.
Will you read the entire motion?
The entire piece on the agenda.
Yes.
I'll make the
This one right here, this highlighted one. We changed the format of the paperwork, Jason.
what I just did was this right here.
Well, this is the commissioner's guide. That helps you guys with the motions. So you have a motion here and then for each individual.
Sorry, that's my fault, but they were the same. Yes.
Basically, it's the last sentence that says based on the findings contained in the staff report.
Because we have to provide reasoning. Got it. I love it. Okay. So it does have an extra sentence. Do you want
I'm looking for the base and I'm just looking at the yellow piece right here. Oh, fine, okay. Now I got you. I
to?
didn't read the last sentence.
I know.
All right. I move to recommend the approval to the city council of the proposed rezone from A10 agricultural to commercial shopping district CS located at approximately 519 West Main Street based on the findings contained in the staff report. I second.
Gary seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll close that item and move
Thank you.
on to, oh, thank you, Shelton. Appreciate your time. We will move on to agenda item number 2. We'll have a presentation and then the public hearing. Then the commission discussion consideration of the proposed amendments to the Grantsville City Land Use and Management Code, chapters 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 14, 15, 16, 20, and 21. Welcome again, Ms. Shelby Moore.
So first thing, I did send out a email this morning, when I uploaded the Word document into PDF, it left out these red lines and I felt like they were very important for you as well as the public to see. So I am going to ask that this remains as a discussion and is tabled and a motion is not made on this. That way, the public can see what was changed. So,
Okay.
but I feel like we can still have that discussion if that is all right with you, Ms. Moore.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I will try to go through this as quickly as possible. So long story short, we're going through the code and we're looking at chapter 2 definitions, chapter 4 qualifying regulations, chapter 6 off-street parking and loading, conditional uses, chapter 8 regulations, 9 landscaping and buffering. And it's hard to make amendment to one chapter of the code and not look at how it affects the remaining chapters. So that's where we got into this big, large amendment. So in chapter 2 definitions, we clarified and defined new terms as well as land use terms for, and we looked for inconsistency as well as making them consistent. We removed outdated and redundant definitions. We aligned terminology. We ensured defined terms are used consistently throughout the code and improved cross references. The majority of the changes in chapter 2, or at least the removal of the definitions, are actually put in chapter 20 for sign definitions. Didn't make sense having sign definitions in 2 and chapter 20. So we just combine those. In chapter 4, it's really basic. We had a street tree list in a picture and we removed the tree list and put it in chapter 9 where it belonged. Chapter 6, we defined secondary access requirements and we updated the formatting to align with the consistent subsection hierarchy. Chapter 7, we clarify approval criteria and procedural expectations, refine findings and required for approval, improve structure and sequencing or review standards, and ensure consistency between use tables and conditional use procedures. In chapter 8, we updated the general development standards that apply citywide, recognized provisions for clarity, and correct cross-reference and structural formatting. Chapter 8 really is just the regulations for conditional use permits. So obviously it needs more. We need to add more in there, but it's tasking. So chapter 9 landscaping, we took that tree list, added it here. We clarified buffer requirements between zoning districts, improved landscaping standards, and enforcement. We recognized different plant materials and screening and installation standards. Especially if we are pushing to beautify Grantsville, we need to have these standards. Chapters 14, 15, and 16, we refined the use tables. So we ensured what is permitted and conditional use. We took out commercial type conditional uses and put them into chapter 16 for commercial uses. And then one change that we did make was home occupations are now permitted because we have really defined and put that in there. So chapter 20, we just added definitions from chapter 2 for sign regulations. Chapter 21, subdivision regulation, clarify subdivision procedures and approval sequencing, improve structure and organization, and aligns definitions with procedural steps and current practices. And then we corrected the formatting on all of these. So I'll just get to it. So here we just changed the A-frame sign, or these signs went into chapter 20, renumbered this. We've taken all the road definitions and we have actually put them under in a little section for roads. All of these are moved to chapter 20. These are moved to chapter 20. Billboard is moved to chapter 20. We did just reference block, see city standards and master transportation plan. So a block is, the block length. And so that is defined in our master transportation plan that we are updating. We are anticipating hopefully having that meeting here in April. So the canopy building we left in, we just removed, I can't even read that.
Freestand.
Yeah, just the freestanding. Removed canopy, moved all these to chapter 20. Clearview site, zone or site triangles, what we defined, and then in our code, we have 30 feet when this said 40 feet. And then just where it's measured from is the back of sidewalk. Community gardens, we defined it's a use in our use table. Concept plans, we defined. Conditional uses, we redefined. You can see this section here was quite short. And so we just went really into what a conditional use permit is and aligned it with the state code.
I have some comments. Do you want to go through everything and then we'll go back to what
Yeah.
comments are? Okay.
If that's okay, or you can stop me,
No,
either one.
we
Okay.
happy to wait. I made notes.
Conditional use permits, again, we defined with conditional use and the state code. Detrimental impacts, we defined and aligned it with the state code as well as conditional uses, and same thing with mitigation conditions. It was asked, why are those not in alphabetical order? And my mind was it's stuck with conditional use permits, so that is a change that we'll be making. All these red lines are going to chapter 20. Chapter 20, driveway widths. We are just aligning with our chapter 6 driveway regulations. We did add shared driveways shall be a minimum width of 24 feet. So when you see kind of like an alley shared driveway, we have some sort of regulation for that. We defined what a 4-family fourplex dwelling is besides a building containing only 4 dwelling units. So we need to have some standards, and that's what we added to all these definitions, is just breaking out what it is, what it should look like. There was a question or a comment last time on a single family dwelling where we had it can only have 1 kitchen, and then we've actually removed the 1 kitchen out for ADUs and things like that. We defined employee, not necessarily for the employees at Grantsville, but when we refer in a conditional use permit standard, you can only have 1 employee. We define that here. Family food production, we made this change here. We've actually changed this in another one, and so I need to make sure that this is updated, which has been noted here. We've removed this sign into chapter 20. We defined the final plat. This is from the state code, as well as just defining what it is. A final plan as well as what that is. Flashing sign is chapter 20, floodlight sign is chapter 20. Freestanding is chapter 20. So we took height and home, so height of a sign is chapter 20, and then home occupation, we just scratched it out and actually broke it out to what the permitting intent is, a frontage requirement, how it's measured, what road type, what access type, areas that are restricted, client traffic, deliveries, employees, that's where that employee definition comes from, advertising and signage, and public display. Household pets, we defined, we just kind of lengthened it and added to that definition of what a household pet is, and we even kept the lion and tigers in it. Class A kennel permits is something that we have as a conditional use permit, but we don't have a definition for it, so really this definition is just what's already in our conditional use permit table. Right here is a requirement in chapter 21 is a lot right away, a strip of land not less than, and it's actually 26 feet that we require it to be paved. So we thought we would clarify that there, so it's not conflicting. We've defined master plan, master development agreement, MDA initially. It was a different definition. It was like a maintenance agreement defined, and then pioneering agreement we have defined as well. Removed all these sign languages. We've defined an overlay district. So last year we approved our new beauty overlay district code, and I felt like we probably needed that definition in here.
Yes, good job.
Parcel of land, we defined instead of referencing C lot. I just want to know what the definition is instead of searching 5 other definitions to find out what it is. Permitted use, we're just defining what's permitted and why it's permitted. With a plat, we're referencing Utah State Code sections. You can just see that these were, they did a big changeover from 9A to 1020, so we just changed those over. Define preliminary plat, what it means, reference state code sections, and define a preliminary plan as well. We have removed private lane and private street and moved it again with alley to a different section here in chapter 2. Either just moved to chapter 20. We have a protection strip, which I've defined in chapter 21. We're just referencing state codes. Sorry, I'm trying to make this not painful.
Oh, you were good.
Site plan in accordance with chapter 11 and city standards. Sportsman's permit. We had actually amended this in our conditional use permit table. And so we defined it and following the outline in Title 4 as well as our conditional use permit table. So here under definition 272 streets and road system, I've added alley. We did not make any changes to the alley. We have an arterial road, which we just said up to 3,500 or more in average daily trips. On a cul-de-sac, we expanded that definition and defined it. We actually had a duplicate definition that was 71 and we had an E, and so we just kind of combined those. We had a local street, which we've left. We had a major street plan, which was definition 188. We actually left it the same, but we've just added it here. And then private lane, which we've left as well. The only thing that we've added is it's not considered a street. And then private street, we did change significantly. So initially when private street was approved, the intent was to meet the city or the state code, which the city can only require up to 32 feet of asphalt. And so we have changed this slightly to meet the state code. So we do have a private street cross section that serves more than 2 dwelling units or any business activity intended up to 1,000 average daily trips. And then we crossed out this 54 feet and in explaining the cross-section, and we just refer to the cross-section, which we have provided here. And then everything else in green is what was in the code prior. So then I'm actually going to scroll down to this bigger cross-section and we'll scroll back up. So we have a 66-foot public single-family residential street. It has a 8-foot sidewalk, 8-foot park strip, 32 feet of asphalt. Then we have our type A curb, which is 2.5 feet, 8-foot park strip, and a 5-foot sidewalk on one side. And then we have our single-family residential private street, which is a 60-foot right-of-way. In the private street definition, we had it at 57 feet, so we did expand that slightly. We did a 5-foot sidewalk, 6-foot park strip, and then we have our 32 feet of asphalt, and then it matches the same. So then I'll scroll back up here. So we added this cross section just for reference. Public street, we've left, it's just renumbered. Rural street is the same. Residential street, we crossed this out and turned it into a single family residential street. So it is the same or similar to a residential street. It was just cleaner just to cross it out and provide that language clean for you guys. This is just the alley cross section that we already have in the code. Here's the slip lane that we already have in the code and was designed. And then we have the arterial or collector street with a slip lane as well. Here is our site triangle and our street frontage. This also had the little street tree section on it. And so then here's our slip lane definition. That wasn't changed besides renumbering. Here under subdivisions, we are just referencing new state sections, removing signs. We've added accessory use and then temporary use definitions. We've added, so in chapter 21, we reference stormwater facilities that cannot be used for open space, but we didn't have a definition for a stormwater facility. So the question becomes, what is that? And then it's ambiguous. So then it goes to the developer. And so we have defined that here as well. Any questions on chapter 2? I know that's a lot.
That is so much work. It must have taken weeks. I can't even imagine. I think we'll start with Jason.
The renumbering was the worst.
Oh,
Can we start with number 53? And part of this is just wanting to understand, so I'm just gonna ask you some questions, Shelby, on, I guess, where mind is on this. So when we go back to conditional use, one of the things that we talk about is what is allowed, and then what, then we go back and say we can only deny a conditional use if it's not reasonably anticipated that we can not mitigate the detrimental effects. What is the definition of that? For example, I was just thinking of a scenario, for example, if we come across some rogue parcel that doesn't match the general plan for the city, and it's zoned, what we'd say incorrectly, but it's not zoned to match what's around there. And we're saying, well, if someone comes in and wants to do something within that zone under a conditional use that we said doesn't match the intent of what we're there, we're basically saying right here that we're locked into letting them do that, even though if it doesn't match the overall. At what point do we have, I don't want to lock ourselves into saying we have to make a decision because of what's written in here in the city statute, if there's a greater reason to do that, but right here, the way this is stated, it sounds like unless they're saying it's detrimental to, I'm asking detrimental to what?
No, absolutely. Tyson, do you mind jumping in on that? Because I know it reflects the state code as well.
It does. So, I mean, your concern is actually kind of what the law states, is that if it's a conditional use, it must be approved unless the substantial mitigation can be done upon detrimental effects that are reflected in the code. So, for example, you could say that there's a smell component that comes with a landfill. And if someone were to hang a little pine tree air freshener, they could say, well, we've mitigated the odor of the landfill. Well, that doesn't substantially mitigate the odor problem.
Right.
And so that would be one reason why it could be denied, because they haven't taken the proper steps to substantially mitigate the detrimental effect of that use. But short of a situation where they have not been able to mitigate it in a substantial way, it must be approved. So a conditional use shall be approved. It is a permitted use with certain conditions, essentially. If there are detrimental impacts, like it doesn't match the surrounding neighborhood, that is a detrimental
Would that be
impact.
considered detrimental? And that's one of the things I guess I was wondering is how wide that definition goes. So,
And so we have things like buffering that are put in the code. So if we have zones that are next to each other, they would have to comply with our buffering standards, for example. And if they're unwilling to or unable to comply with those standards, and that would be a reason to deny a conditional use permit.
okay, I feel more comfortable with that then. I just didn't understand how far, I didn't want to lock us into basically saying we have to allow it, but you've answered my question.
Can I make a suggestion on this one? So under the 272 streets and roads, we have some definitions that fall underneath the streets and road system where we have detrimental impacts and mitigating conditions here. Might I suggest is doing like a sub A, sub B, so that we're keeping the alphabetical nature of this, but we just sort of have a sub definition underneath the conditional use permit.
Yeah, so I thought about that this morning and just would it affect if we're reviewing a subdivision and there's a detrimental impact that isn't necessarily related to a conditional use permit? Would that then only stick detrimental impact to a conditional use permit versus pulling that out and just putting it in alphabetical order? Same thing with mitigation conditions, because yes, that was my intent at first, and then looking at that further today.
I
I
think
would
you make a good
support
point.
that.
If you put it under that, then if it's a permitted use, that still could have detrimental impacts that we want to mitigate.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah.
I felt the same way, Tyson.
This was,
Yep.
it was a little confusing to me because basically we're defining what a detrimental impact is above and then a permit, and then we're restating it again. I mean, almost verbatim on that first couple sentences, and if there's a reason for that, then I'm supportive. It seems like it's kind of repeating the same thing, but that was just me reading through it, so.
Can I jump into the conditional use before you move on to your second?
Mhm.
Are you done or do you?
Well, I have
still
more going down,
questions? But,
But it's lower, so.
okay, so I also had a question on that. More specifically, that we had conditional use permit defined in here, which I found a really good reference in a resource. I wish I would have cited the resource in my notes, saying that the conditional use permit is more of a temporary permit that's revisited. Like if there are the detrimental impacts or mitigations, that we would revisit that. So it's not a permanent, it doesn't run with the land like a variance does. And then where I was going with that is that I didn't see a definition for a variance in here. So the variance would be the authorization to deviate from the zoning ordinance because you have a unique or non-conforming lot or a piece of land that they might alter, ask for a variance to be able to develop. So I found it interesting though that the conditional use permit, that in the definition is that my resource, which I could find, described it as is temporary and requires compliance with the specific conditions identified for the conditional use. So I'm not sure if you want to tie that in or if it could be tied in a way that makes sense. I feel like I'm rambling, but the variance definition is what's missing from here. And the difference between the two, I think, is often an area where we've tripped up in our discussions and considerations. So I thought it might be good. And that, I think, just for me, thinking of a conditional use permit as a temporary application for specific activities that needs to be revisited. If we were requiring something to be mitigated, to me, that makes it simpler in my head. like conditional use is a temporary status where the variance runs with the land.
Those are great points. I'm sorry, I'm just taking.
No,
notes
that's
and-
okay. I don't know if I'm misunderstanding it. If anybody else has questions or comments on that process.
No,
Would that be a case by case?
So the conditional use is a case by case typically, yeah.
I forget-
I know, I know. I'm sorry. We don't usually accept engagement at this point in the conversation. It's just deliberation for the commission and our representatives, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
so that's something I've noted on here and I will work with Tyson so that we can do a little more research on that. And at least have an answer when we come back.
Okay.
Any other questions on the?
So I will turn my time back over to Jason since I stole it from him.
Go down to number, I think it's,
Hold on, so it means if you have next to each other, they're married.
number 80.
That
I had a question, when we define these dwelling units, I know we're talking about different things, whether it's a quiet, multi-family, so it could be quadplex, a duplex. We talk about having a separate house and kitchen and multiple renters. As we define this under a single roof, what, are there other qualifiers that we would look at to say what we have here? And I'm trying to think of potential, and this is just my inexperience, but as far as building this out, you could have someone with a house that says, okay, I've got a basement with a separate entrance. I want to rent that out. Would that be considered a duplex? And what does that do as far as what we're doing there? The definition is loose enough to where, I mean, you basically could say are we looking at separate, a true quadplex, you could have 4 separate people living in separate, in like separate houses essentially that could be sold that way. Would you have them deeded separately or like under separate?
So a
Or what-
quadplex would be one structure on the same lot. And so you would have 4 different entries into that.
Right, or two if it was a duplex. I'm just wondering what are we gaining by defining this, and is there further, do we need to define it further, or is this enough, and what would we be using it for? And as far as for the, other than saying, hey, someone wants to build a quadplex here.
No, that is great. So I mean, our first definition was just a building containing only 4 dwelling units. And so defining it out obviously gives us some definition and standards to look at as they're constructing this. But if you want to have standards for it, that's something that we would need to put elsewhere in the code to have specific standards for it.
Where I'm going with this is that we go through and we say, if someone comes in and wants to build quadplexes, and they say, okay, yeah, we're gonna do that. And the intent is that they're going to manage those as say that's sold under a separate title, they have 4 renters, or are they gonna try to sell that out as individual, like almost like a condo? That's what I wanna know if that definition.
Yeah,
is
they
in there or
can't,
not.
they cannot sell it. It would be rental only. It'd have to be under one.
Is that defined somewhere? I didn't know if that was defined somewhere. I just wanted to make sure they couldn't, we're looking at how much does this capture, I guess, what you're saying?
Yeah. No, I mean, it doesn't, it's not specific to saying it can't be subdivided out, or not.
And if it's satisfied somewhere else, and I didn't know that, that's what I'm kind of wondering is if we.
I want to say, sorry to interrupt,
No,
but I
please.
want to say that those things are regulated under a separate section of state code for condos. And so each segment of the property, each portion of the building, the home would be separated out into its own separate parcel and sold off and managed as such.
Okay,
So that's a separate section of state code that would govern that kind of
I
transaction.
just want to make sure it was, if we don't need to cover it, sounds like we don't, then.
Yeah, and it would be platted different. It would look like a condo plat rather than,
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that's what we're gonna get into approval, but if this is my,
Yeah, this is just.
I'm learning as I go. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, you're good, Jason, wait, can I interject in here as
Yeah.
well? So, and on 80, there's also the language and often as an investment property for multi-generational living. Is there a reason why that language is in there? I would consider striking that, because it kind of defines again, like, there's no reason that if someone builds a 4-plex or a quadplex, if they're trying to sell them. I just find the language interesting, like, well, I don't understand why it's in there.
Okay, perfect. This part right here, right?
Yeah, I would just.
Okay.
I mean, everything is good right there to me, right to that, where you hit the comment that often as an investment property or for multi-generational living, I would just strike that.
Any other?
Yeah, so share, go back, say, I did, I just, even that often as investment property, I would strike all that as well. But I think if you take that out, those.
Okay.
Just
Okay,
unnecessary
simplify
language,
it.
sorry, Jason, that's
That's
what I
good.
saw on 80.
You're good, Gary. Okay, did you get your
I still have more.
answers? I know you do.
Yes.
Just want to make
Yes,
sure
this is
that
good.
one is.
Yep.
Okay.
97. On this, I was.
So just,
Go ahead.
sorry, to clarify, this, I had copied this, pulled this out of our code, but it's not updated. We had changed this, prior and, so yeah, so this is actually 2,000 square feet and a few things. So this one has been updated, most recently.
Part of it, I guess, was just when I read this first and I looked at just general people looking at this, it says family food production, and then you're talking about the raising of animals for food, and then we're talking about horses. And I don't know that we want to eat horses, but I don't know that that was the intent here, but I wonder if we could talk about agriculture, just kind of clarify a little bit about what we're saying here, just about, or I just thought that the title of the definition, what we're trying to explain here is a little bit different. I don't know if there's a better way to put that in there, but I read this and I was like, oh, where are we going with this?
Tastes like
And so-
chicken.
Yes, and so I wasn't so much concerned about the areas like the square footage. I'm fine with that piece. I just, if we maybe rename this to where it makes more sense, and I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on.
When I was thinking,
Agricultural
I would just
animals.
strike the words and horses, because you cover you cover large animals later on in the paragraph. And I was the same thing, like, we're talking about raising animals for family food production and horses. It's just, it's a little clunky.
We've had.
I
a
don't
lot of-
disagree.
Yeah,
This is an agricultural community and people like to have their horses. So this is a way for them to keep horses on property that is maybe otherwise not zoned for that.
yeah.
I just think it's weird to put under a family food production qualifier if they want to have a horse there, but it goes back to what we even had for our discussion last week when they were talking about an individual trying to put a horse there, and some of the areas we were even talking about, I wasn't aware of this, but some of the buffer we were talking about, their horse property or their area would have been right up against their house, which wouldn't have complied with what's right here. So
Right.
So,
And we did change the measures, but I believe, Jason, I can't recall if you were here when we've talked about this a couple times. But I think Bill captured the reason why it was there, because there had been people coming that wanted to keep horses that didn't meet the lot requirements and were coming for a conditional use. And we've had other discussions at the commission with the family food production. Is it permitted now on our,
family food production,
yeah, is it a
Um,
permitted?
it's permitted in agricultural zones, but
In the
not
zones?
residential zones. It's conditional.
Okay,
But Tyson, if we strike there and horses, do we need to have a definition for the keeping of horses, I guess, and then amend the use tables?
Do you already cover that though later on, where you're talking about large animals, horses, cows, etc.? It almost seemed like the and horses language was redundant in that paragraph because it's already covered later on in the paragraph.
Is this meant to address farm animals? Could we just, in the heading, could you say / farm animals?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that definition's been there for a very long time, but yeah, I mean, we could,
I would be okay with we just put / farm animals and we can leave horses in there, just the way it is right now. It looks like we're trying to eat horses, raise horses. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to make like, just
How would you define that, family food production / farm animals?
and farm animals. I just as a definition of what we're,
Should we put
And
in
then-
2 different definitions then?
I'd be open to whatever city staff feels like is easier than that, but.
I mean, yeah, it's confusing too, family food production, we're like,
The little soft caps.
but I'm fine either way. I
Right below
just-
you have 98, you have farm and ranch. Could you just say, put an additional paragraph in there, 99, move everything down and talk about farm animals?
That's a good way
Is
to do
that
it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's more work, but
either way, I'm just looking for the attorney for advice.
The only complication there is that we define farm, and so if there's something called a farm animal, what we're trying to do is allow people to have horses on property that doesn't necessarily meet the definition of a farm. And so therein comes the complication where I would look to those with more agricultural experience for some a better thesaurus for farm animal. Something that makes better sense than using the word farm, which is also defined here.
Can I look at other cities and
Sure.
maybe propose some different language?
Happy
And maybe that's what, even with Tyson, I thought the paragraph read well, except for those two words and horses. That just seemed out of place. I thought after that, it read fine. Cause like I said, you have and horses and you cover what a large animal is, which is, you reference horses, cows, etc. I just thought just those two words, like it was odd placement.
Maybe it just needs to be broke out.
I think how you have it right there, I would recommend just striking how you have it, just.
How do we address
let that
horses
be.
then?
Do we ever use and or? So you could say the raising of horses and or animals for family. Nope, that would still read that way.
Well, I'll play with
Or
it
animals for.
and come
family
back and
protection. Okay,
propose something with
good,
you guys.
good item.
Okay.
What else you got?
I couldn't sleep, so I went through a bunch of these. but I'm almost done.
You are good.
Number 114,
The new 114, right?
yes. When we talk about the front yard and later you have that picture, hey, go back to the images where I'm looking at. And this comes back from discussion we had even last week or last meeting when we were talking about what the definition of a front yard is. We were qualifying that on a corner lot that there was a front yard, and in this map below, you're saying that there's a front yard and then we have a street side yard. Is that new? It didn't, or is that how we've had it before? Because when we were working with that individual, we said they have two front yards because they were on a corner lot. The way this is defined, it's not. I actually like this better. I just wanted to understand if that's new or not.
No, this isn't new. This has always been there, but we do specify in one of our definitions that it either in one of our definitions or in chapter 21 that if you're on a corner lot, you have two front yards.
I think it's chapter 21.
Part of my reason for bringing this up was if it is defined somewhere else, it sounds like it is. Do we want to look at how we could adjust this? Because some of the questions we were having with that other individual was that we had to worry about two front yards and that setback, and we made an exception. But if we had the front yard as something that was facing the house, and then the way this is decided here, I don't know if that would make it easier for us in the future as far as having to work through variances or different things we have to work in there. But curious to get other people's thoughts from the commission or.
I had the same notes written down. I think what you have here and what we have in 21 are in conflict with each other.
So
Especially because you have the display down low where it shows the front yard and then street side yards. I think the two definitions need to come together, because right now they're definitely in conflict.
So 336 front yard says on a corner lot, there are two front yards.
Which is great, but then if you look at your display below 114, that's not what the display shows.
Oh, absolutely.
So then we would need to update the display
Yeah.
or.
Could we change that? Because in our setback descriptions, our front yard and corner side yard both have a 30 feet setback requirement. And it doesn't say front yard and corner front yard or. So I think Jason and Gary are spot on. If we could change the other reference, it might fit better into the rest of our coding.
So do we want to, just to clarify, do we want this to say a street side yard or a front yard as well? here?
Or a corner side
And maybe just
yard.
put more definition in that if the house is on a corner, and maybe even reference to chapter 21. So they're just they're not in conflict with each other.
That makes sense. So maybe in the front yard definition, we could just add, for a corner lot, C, and then reference the other section of code. that talks about the two front yards that exist on a corner lot.
Does that clarify it?
I like this one that says the front yard is the yard that's in front of the,
Frontificated.
yeah, the say
So,
facade, thank you, that's what I was trying to read, but in front of the, we're missing a word there. Says the permeable area between the front lot line and the front facade of the period.
Yeah, I actually noted that here.
Okay.
It didn't carry over
Sorry.
from ordinance 2025.
We just have the dwelling unit or
01.
something there that,
It should say the permeable area between the front line and the front facade of the main building and extending from the main building and extending for the full width of the lot. The front yard must front a public street. Is what it should actually say. But I had to go back through two ordinances because it was an error, I don't know, from staff or when it got put in somewhere along those lines.
it's probably been there forever.
No, just,
No.
just this year.
Can you help me understand, is there a reason, I actually like the way this diagram showed, because I think it gave us some more flexibility on being able to make changes like we had the last session, but I don't know if they're from city staff, and I'm newer at this than a lot of you are as far as having to deal with things in the past. Does it make more sense to define it as two front yards, or to leave it defined as the way it is in this image and update the other part of it? I'm just asking to understand.
Our code in multiple chapters references a corner lot has two front yards, so we define it in definition 336, chapters 14 through 16, and then in chapter 21. So I mean, simplicity wise, it would be easier to update this picture. Saying front yard, we could also define once the home's front door is defined or whatever shown, that is now the front yard, and the corner front yard is something else. I've seen that.
And I
In
know,
other cities.
I know you're doing a lot of work on this, and I'm not trying
No,
to
no,
make
no,
it
you're
harder,
not.
but I think getting it right is more important than saying it's easier just to update this other piece, but I'm asking, I guess, from the city staff perspective, is there a reason why we couldn't leave this definition here and update the rest of it for that, or if there's a strong reason for it and there's history behind it, I'm open to hear that, I just want to understand.
Shouldn't it match the ordinance? Doesn't that make sense that it,
I'm saying, or go ahead.
no, just that it matches the ordinance, so wouldn't this just show two front yards because that's what the ordinance says it is on the corner?
Currently, that's what it says.
So I'm asking if we were to update, we need to update
Change
the
the
ordinance
ordinance.
to make that, that's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Is it worth it or not? I don't know.
It's ultimately up to you guys. I mean,
I've only been here since February of last year, but it's been a constant thorn in our side that we do define both of those as a front yard. And
It
it's-
causes a problem.
Yeah, and not
people want
only
to buy
for
corner
our
lots.
discussions, but and then we had, Cameron, we had the rear entry, or what do they call them, rear loaded townhomes that came and it took
What is the
weeks
front yard there?
to determine the front yard was the front yard when it wasn't facing
That's
a
what
public
it is,
street
just a picture of
because
it.
they're rear loaded and
Interesting, okay.
it's just been a mess, so the
So
more
it
that
sounds
we
like
can-
there is a problem there that
Well,
needs to be-
Shelby, is there also an opportunity here to maybe put a little bit more of talking about, put its language that the front yard is something about where the address lies for that lot? Is
Yeah.
that's considered the front yard? Cause to that point, if I have an alley low townhome, which is front, which is back,
Mhm.
but wherever the house is addressed at, that should be the designation. In my opinion, I mean, that's just, I'm one guy, but that should be the designation of what consists of the front yard.
Yeah, no, we can definitely look at other cities and see what their definitions are and get some ideas with
I would
that.
like that, if we could.
especially in cities with the rear loaded townhomes.
Look at Daybreak, 'cause that'll be, look at South Florida. Daybreak will be the best case for that. We have a valley load in there.
Okay. Next question,
This is my last one, Shelby. 178.
any in between that?
I'm beyond that.
Go ahead, excited, we have some stuff there, but go ahead, Jace.
I don't have the.
On here, when we talk about the master plan and what we talked about shall be consistent with the code municipal planning authority. unless it's inherent in here and I'm just reading it differently, do we want to also include that, do we want to have the city general plans?
Do you want a separate definition for city general?
No,
plan
I'm
or
saying if
just
we
reference
include that when it's
definition?
saying that the master plan shall be consistent with this code, with municipal planning authority, city standards, do we also want it to be consistent, as someone comes up with the master plan, that we are going to be consistent with the general plan, the city general plan as well?
Perfect.
So you think just after with the municipal planning authority, comma, city standards, comma, city master plan?
Yes,
Just add that language?
yeah.
Okay, I've got that commented in here. Any,
That's great. I appreciate that.
yeah, thank you, Jason. Any other comments, questions on definition?
There was one that
You said that was it?
there was there was one I remember that was back to that plan.
No, I'm just-
I did make
I'm
a
just-
note.
Cameron, do you have?
No, I'm waiting, I'm just, Jason.
I didn't make another note, but it was coming back to where the conceptual plan that they went there, when they sent them in for when someone comes in, but I need to find that again. I don't remember. I did, I guess, make my note, so.
Okay.
But thank you. You've done a lot of work here. I recognize it, so.
Thank you.
My question is just down in, mostly in 272, where we're talking about, there's a lot of change in trip numbers. I'm just curious where the numbers come from, changing from 3,500 trips to 5,000 trips, all those. So 272 B, C, H, K. So are those arbitrary numbers, or those, did you go out and do a windshield survey and watch cars drive by streets?
So anything in black was already in our code. So I'm not I don't know where they came up with those numbers, but we have done a traffic study as well with our master transportation plan and making sure that these align. As far as a single family residential road with 1,000 average daily trips, that is something that the state actually came up with.
Okay.
Yeah, so UDOT does define those, and they use the daily trip numbers for lots of other things, like environmental impacts. Will analyze the daily trips and how many lanes there are on the road to come up with a noise impact or noise pollution is what they call it, like light pollution. You need street lights and things like that. And so there's a lot of things that goes into how UDOT has defined those trips, but I'm assuming that's where it came from. And in bigger cities, a lot of the streets will have cameras on it just solely for the purpose of
Counting cars.
determining what a daily trip count is.
So we just should put numbers in a hat and pull them out, that's all.
No, I assume.
Boy, that sounds like fun though.
I assume when these definitions were created that there was a traffic study done and.
So on 272, on section A, alley says it's a private access way for a thoroughfare of minimum 26 feet. If we get to a point in the city where someone brings a master plan for alley low townhomes with rear entry garages that are in an alley, is that still considered that a private street, or is this a pretty specific definition?
So,
How would I guess my question is, how would we define an alley low townhome? How would it fall under this definition? What would we do for that?
so, I mean, they would pull in through the garage from the
Or would
alley.
we say if this is if it's not a PUD or a private subdivision, would that then alleyway that feeds multiple townhomes, would that be considered private? And who would service that road? Who would take care of that road? Is that up to
The HOA, so anything that's
city
private,
wouldn't touch it.
no, the city wouldn't maintain these.
Okay,
Yeah, and I think since I've been here, Grantsville's trying to maintain an aesthetic that doesn't kind of lend an opportunity for those smaller living units, just because it's challenging. We have one road that's on the west side, right near all those big townhomes or apartments or whatever they are on, close to the Walmart distribution center. Those roads are so small, they could probably qualify as an alley. They might even qualify as an alley. I don't know. Those roads are a nightmare to try to navigate out there on the west side. So, but if you do have concerns about it, I mean, we can revisit in the future unless you have a good suggestion on how we fix it.
no, I just wanted to make sure, because I know right now we don't have anything, but who's to say in 5 or 10 years or 20 years, do we have something? And maybe it's addressed then and we don't worry about it. It's,
Or 2 years, we've had
or 2
those
years. I mean, who knows
proposed.
what's coming out with some of these big master plan subdivisions that are
Right.
on the docket,
We
so.
do not want to be the next daybreak. Sorry, should I say that out loud?
Nope, you
Mayor?
should.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
I have a
did you have
couple.
any other comments or questions?
Yeah, so I.
Did we overstep your time,
Nope,
Cameron?
I'm
Did you
good.
get all
Nope,
your,
Sorry,
okay,
man.
sorry.
Number 15 and number 21. Number 15, the automatic car wash. You talk about small trucks not exceeding
Well,
1.5 tons. Definition number
Definition.
15.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I mean, to me, just looking at this, small truck not exceeding a 1 ton or a half ton, so which one would it be?
I think it's more just saying that we don't wanna see semis in there. I mean, I could update this definition.
So then I would almost say, okay, take out the half ton.
But they
Because
mean
if
to say
you're,
one
if
and a
you're not
half,
exceeding
1.5
1 ton,
Oh, yeah, 1.5
then you're
tons.
covering everything below that 1 ton.
So it's 1.5 tons.
1.5
Yes.
tons.
1.5.
I like that.
Because that would be then in 21, right? Would that be a different one?
You would be like a 4,500 or a 5,500 is what you would see. That would be your 1.5 tons.
Because the way this reads, to me reads half ton.
1.5 tons capacity.
It used to be 1.5.
Yeah, if you put 1.5 in there, I think it'll take away ambiguity.
Yeah,
I like it.
That was like extra against the metric system there, 1 and 1.5 tons. Like,
Well, that's probably proper English.
and then I did have a question on definition number 57.
Can I jump in before since we're
Please
right
do.
there? I found the other one I wanted to ask you about, Shelby. On 52 on the concept plan, one thing, when someone brings in a concept and they're, and I know in the definition later, we talk about how this doesn't guarantee the concept plan is not a guarantee that the applicant will get everything when they come back to apply for the actual, that the preliminary plan is different than the actual approval that we'll get. One question I had on there is up above where it talks about that they depict land use as access to circulation. I wonder if there's a way we can write that to say that it may include these, because I think this is from other work experience. People come in with a plan and people think, oh, you had a road here, you have this as open space, and then that concept plan is to show kind of a thought of what they're trying to do to get rezoned or something, but it isn't necessarily what they're going to come back with for their actual designed plan. And so I think to say that may include these is better than to say will include these, because it kind of it gives people more clarity, allows us to have some flexibility, but also the public and everybody else doesn't come in and say, well, hey, they presented this map and said they were gonna do X and now it's different, and happens all the time. That was it.
And
I
then
That's a
will- I will
good
be
one.
quiet
We
now.
had that
Go ahead.
one.
Good.
Yeah, number
No.
57 on the condominium, and maybe I'm just nitpicking this, and trust me, I probably am. But I just wonder, like, reading through this definition, the question that came to me, well, by this definition, then would a row townhome be considered a condominium? To me, in my profession, a condominium is more like basically garden style apartments that are for sale rather than for rent. And I just read through this and just kind of left a couple of questions like, is this too vague? Or am I just nitpicking?
Nitpick away, this is the time for that, so don't feel bad about, seriously, this is the time. And again, a condominium plat is governed very different and special under state code. So we have a condominium defined here, but it's also regulated by that state code, which would come into play, and it has to do with ownership, whether it's a townhome style condominium or it's a stacked apartment style condominium where you have the individual ownership of a block of space, basically, not necessarily a piece of ground. And it's all governed and defined specifically and explicitly in state code. So
Do we then just put the reference to the state code under this definition?
it might be a good idea, but it does say it's treated by state code, and this code as a subdivision. So it's in there.
Okay,
And seriously, y'all are spot on with these questions. Don't feel like you're nitpicking at all. It's fantastic.
Well done.
Very good
Do
conversation.
you want to reference what law it is, or is it too many, is there more, there's enough laws that you can't say just state law?
that's, I just wondered.
I think it's good to say it like this, because if you if state code changes, and actually it did recently, the whole chapter that we had been using for 20 years has now changed to 1020 instead of 10-9A, which, you know, whatever. There's still a 10-9A actually, but all of the things got moved to 1020. So it's just saying it follows the strictures and requirements in state code. I think that's plenty.
I guess I would push though a little bit, say, why not just put the state code? Because if the state code does, and why don't we address this again as an update to keep this fresh in the mind rather than let it go for 20 years? That would be my only argument for that. Probably not a good argument, but that would be my only argument for that.
Well, I can see the argument.
I would, if I could recommend that we don't state, I mean, there are pieces where there's specific state code in here, but that takes so much administrative time to go through and update that every time state code is updated.
Honestly, state code gets changed every session
Yeah,
with regard to a lot of our codes, and we're constantly struggling to keep up, so.
So maybe I'd make a recommendation then, instead of the word state law, maybe just state code,
Okay, that's fair.
probably a little bit more concise.
state code is annotated state code, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah. there's
yeah,
lots.
perfect. Okay.
Did you have something else?
I did not know.
Okay.
Did you have something else?
No, I think either I or Gary cut him off. I didn't want to.
No.
Okay.
Gary?
No, I think that was it for me. The only one I had was like the lions and tigers. That was funny, but no, funny. Jason, I had a lot of the same things on here.
Do I need to read mine or do you have them?
I mean, I have yours. Do you want me to read them and give you the answers, or do you want to read them?
Oh, I don't need answers. I just was wondering if it would be good to recognize radon as a geological hazard on item 119.
I will refer to Tyson on that.
It's been more publicized over the last, I want to say 3 years. Having it in here and just making a note that maybe if developers come in, you know, they are required to do a radon assessment. And radon, you know,
Developers are, or is it based on who develops it?
well, I think it might be based on what their funding
Mhm.
is from. Maybe not all developers will be required to assess radon risk, but Utah has high risk across the board.
I would have to look at how we use the word geologic hazard and what that relates to elsewhere in the code, because it may not be possible to include something like radon in there and have it serve its same purpose. So if, for example, we're requiring an environmental impact study or something that names geological hazards, they may not know those, whether the radon levels in that area exist until they start digging until they're into the more of the occupancy permit type area, and then they would be required to do radon mitigation and things like that. But I'm not certain that we can apply it in the same way.
In the geological.
We should put a note there though, so we can look.
Yeah.
And make sure that it doesn't need to be put in there. There are probably other things similar to radon, dangerous gases and things like that also exist that may also constitute a geological hazard. So we have to look and see if we want an exhaustive list, or if we want this to be, the et cetera at the end, which could include things like radon.
I think you're spot on there, Tyson. Thank you. I didn't think about that. We could just add it to 92, environmental impact assessment. So, and the challenge of radon is that usually they test it in enclosed areas. So they have to build a temporary enclosed area to test it for 30 days or 90 days or whatever it is. But they look at the geological aptitude first for it before they determine whether or not they need to test for it, because it is kind of expensive. But so the environmental impact assessment would also analyze, like I mentioned, the light and the noise impact sometimes from traffic, right? Sometimes not, sometimes those are pollutions that are impacting your project, or your project is impacting what we call dark skies, right? So there's things like that that could be included in the environmental impact assessment. It was just such a great description of the environmental impact assessment that I thought we might be doing ourselves a disservice if we don't include those types of pollutions in there. And then the analysis on public and private sectors and the development for those could also include an analysis for low income and minority populations. So, but can or cannot choose. I just thought I'd suggest that. And then I noticed we don't have a definition for HOA in here, or if we needed one. So I don't know if that's appropriate, or Tyson, maybe you had some feelings about having a definition for a homeowner association in here.
I don't see that it is a matter of controversy. I think we could certainly have a definition of a homeowners association.
Okay.
I think that's a pretty simple add that we could put in there where we do reference it elsewhere in the code. We could specify exactly what that means.
Okay, super. And then I think my only other question was on 279 about the swimming pool. I think your definition here would apply to a public swimming pool, or a swimming pool, or something of that nature that's open to the public, because they don't always require a conditional use permit. 279, yeah. So I think that definition, I don't know if you should have a definition for a private swimming pool either. I don't know. Does anybody know?
Tyson?
I don't.
Does
We
anybody
have an
care?
accessory use definition, so that would just mean that this type of swimming pool is secondary to the primary use of the property. So this to me would mean more of a private swimming pool that someone has as part of their residence. But if you look at the aquatic center in Tooele, that's the primary use of that.
That's true. So we, when we put in our swimming pool, we didn't need to apply for a conditional use permit. We just applied for a building permit.
So if we have this in our definition as a conditional use, does it need to be added to the use tables?
Or would it be the primary use? Just here in this definition.
We would probably need to add it to the use tables. Unless our assumption is that it's allowed in all zones, but even then, it's still unclear. So I think adding it to the use table would be the best way for someone who wants to know whether they can have a swimming pool, to find out if they can have a swimming pool.
Okay. Shelby, is that a lot of administrative work on that?
No, that one's easy.
So you're proposing that it become one of the allowed uses based on whatever the zoning is for that parcel?
And does this also contemplate an above ground pool, or is this just an in ground? I think that
Oh, that's a
maybe
good
some people
question.
might be looking and saying, do I need to apply for conditional use permit for an above ground pool?
I would say
What do
you
you
just
think?
add a
Water
permanent
specialist?
accessory use.
There you go.
So
What did you say, Rad?
a permanent accessory use.
I think that clarifies it. That
Just
would,
add just the word permanent. Because an above ground pool isn't necessarily always permanent, right?
Do
Below
we need to
ground,
have people come back to us every time they wanna put a pool in for us to approve it, or can it be something, that's where I say if it's in the table, they can just, the city can say, yeah, it's okay or no?
And that's what
Right.
the city did
That's
for
what-
us. We just, you got a building permit. We didn't need a conditional use, but if it's a conditional use for like a group home comes in, that's a private or privately owned public, whatever. We had a guy here a few weeks ago that said, I want to develop this and I'm planning on putting in a pool that'll be open to the public, which I think we advised him not to do that, but
So
um,
if this is a conditional use permit, then we need to notify the neighbors within a 500-foot radius. And
No,
so
I don't.
does this really need to be a conditional use permit?
That's what.
no. No,
So
we didn't
maybe-
need to get one. I mean, it's
maybe we
been 5
define
years,
this
but
For like public use or commercial use swimming pools?
maybe for public, yeah. And I like the delineation out for public use.
Yeah. Okay.
Cause that will increase traffic and noise and the opportunity for contamination or whatever. I mean,
But do we wanna have a public pool get a conditional use permit?
does that not make
It
sense?
doesn't make any sense
Is
to me
that
whatsoever.
Overburdening people,
I would
Gary?
think a public swimming pool should get a building permit. It's not it's,
But don't you wouldn't think that we'd wanna warn people within 500 feet or,
Well, I mean,
I don't
I
know.
mean, it's,
they're not just gonna build a swimming pool, it's
Yeah,
gonna be a
it's-
conditional use either way and subdivided, so I think we could remove
I guess.
conditional use permit and put building permit.
Yeah, Bill,
Yeah.
that's
You're
that's
right.
the.
Cause a
the
conditional
right
use
spot.
permit
That's
would be a
cleaner.
temporary permit that is
Yeah.
based off of
could be revoked.
expectations.
If they put an example,
You're
they're gonna
right.
come back and revoke that permit now, probably not.
Now you have to fill it. Leave it empty. You're right, Gary.
I
Thank you.
think just taking that, I mean, you're the case in point, right? Just get a building permit, and call it good.
Yes.
Any other questions on definitions?
I just think I have one more, sorry. 288 for use, purpose for which a building, lot, sign or structure is intended, designated, occupied or maintained. And then the additional descriptions are individually numbered 289 and 290. But I feel like maybe those could be,
A, B, C.
yeah.
Okay.
There's a S word there I was searching for that I can't think of. Accessory use means a use that is incidental and subordinate customarily associated with the principal use of the building, lot or structure, right? Which I love. Temporary use means a use that is permitted for a limited duration and under conditions specified. Ah, perfect. There it is. Okay,
So you're just thinking 288, then subsection A, subsection B.
B, yeah. Or however your enumeration is. Okay, and then one more, sorry, the home occupation, which I just noticed has 2 B items. And I know how stinking easy it is to look at that. I've done contracts with that, saying, missing the sub numbering, sub indexing or whatever it is. Because this is just a ton of work. I don't know if I've ever done anything with this much work. So thank you so much. That is amazing. Home occupation, I didn't even write down what number it was.
128.
I am so sorry.
Oh,
There's a
right
B and
here.
a B.
Double B.
And I just noticed it tonight when you were providing your overview, which was amazing also. Okay, do we want to make a motion to table that then for the next meeting?
Yeah,
So you can open this one for public comment, is that because
it was
Is
open for public.
it was, okay. It just happened so fast. I think we
Well-
went straight to discussion.
We,
We went from you to discussion. No.
You're right, we
So-
You've got more.
because we suggested.
Oh, there's more.
There is a lot more, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time.
Okay.
Um,
I don't want.
so I mean, you can open it to public comment. We're gonna have so open it to public comment. We'll have public comment again next time. And I will finish going through the changes unless you'd like me to go through the remaining chapters. I just want to be respectful of everybody's time. Thank you, Rhett.
What is
Make a
everybody's
motion.
time? Okay, you want a motion? Thank you, Cameron.
I move to table the proposed amendments to the Grantsville City Land Use and Management Code, including chapters 2, 4, 6. Am I doing all these? Could we talk about?
Just say,
Just do that.
agenda item 2.
Agenda item 2, to future planning commission meetings.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
You got off easy compared to last.
Item table. We will move on to,
You want my mouse back?
No, but if you could pull up the map.
my goodness, my fingers will work. I will move on to agenda item 3, presentation, public hearing, discussion and consideration of the proposed Grantsville City annexation policy plan. So we will do the staff presentation. Thank you, Bill. Can you state your name for the record?
Yes, I'm Bill Kobabe. I'm the Community Development Director.
Thank you.
So this item, and we've talked about this, it was a couple meetings ago, and I'm not sure if everyone was here for that conversation. So I will go over it really quickly for the benefit of those who were not here. The annexation policy plan is required by state code for cities to have if they desire to control, I guess, the annexation of property into the city. So the annexation policy plan is a statement of a desire, not necessarily an actual requirement or anything that we're not declaring this property as ours. We're just saying if this property were to annex and they wanted to annex into Grantsville, we would consider that. That's all this is saying. As you can see on the map, there are 3 main areas, areas A, B, and C. They're delineated a little bit more in the text of the document as to where they are and what we anticipate in those areas. There was a question Jason brought up about where that the annexation on area B would stop and not extend onto, and it's the road, it's the highway there. So anything east of that would not be for consideration, but west of that could be.
West of I-80,
West of Mid Valley.
okay,
So the property that you had that you was in question is east of that.
right.
So we're well away from any of that.
We've actually already tried to annex, well, I mean, we're in the middle of that. We've annexed area to the east of that road, right?
A little further south. This was some property that was owned by Kennecott that is closer to the lake and then east of the Mid Valley. So it's not involved in our annexation area. So I think that's basically it. Do you have any questions for me? I will say that there is no imminent annexation being proposed for areas A or area C. But area B, as you know, has a substantial amount of area that's currently in dispute. And we wanted to make sure that our policy plan reflects the inclusion of that area into our city limits potentially, but for sure within our annexation areas.
I think you've addressed my concerns we talked about, so I'm
Yeah.
good.
Gary?
I want to reiterate too, that this isn't a projection into the future. This is if and when, not we're headed this direction, so there's a time associated with it. No, this is driven by property owners and if and when.
So this would be public before we ask questions, right? Gotta do public hearing before we engage him.
No, you can ask questions now, would be a good time.
Okay,
You have-
I'm confused by the instructions and I'm gonna ignore the instruction that was given. So my question would just be, now there could be overlap on these plans, right? So there's nothing that would prevent another city from doing the same thing we're doing right now with the same pieces of land, correct?
They're supposed to coordinate with adjacent communities to make sure that there is no overlap. To our best knowledge, there is none in adopting this policy plan the way it is located or indicated, with the exception of the ERDA question. And we're hopefully going to get a resolution on that very soon.
So what prevents a city from just saying, putting in their annexation plan, every piece of property that's within a 50-mile radius is, what would prevent someone from doing that? What's the pro and the con?
So there is nothing legal preventing them from doing that, but what there are some natural constraints that would keep you from, let's say, us annexing over into the Skull Valley. We would have to provide services out there, and we would have to provide a plan for getting services from our main area out to that satellite area, or establishing a separate water area over there. So,
But this would just be a plan, right? So we wouldn't actually have to do that unless we decided we want to do that.
Correct.
So we can go put a flag anywhere we want
yes,
and just say, hey, this is gonna be ours if we want it. And then at some point, if we don't want it, we just say, never mind.
the only exception would be for already incorporated areas into adjacent communities. But yeah, we could go all the way from here out to Wendover if we wanted to.
It's just interesting. It just seems like this is just like almost like a playground game of, hey, we want this, and what prevents anyone? I mean, it's good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just interesting that everyone wouldn't just go put this in a plan and say, well, eventually I might want it, so I'm gonna put it in my plan.
Yeah.
So why don't we go all the way to Wendover? What stops us from doing that?
Nothing.
Service area.
Again, it's the service area,
Again,
but
let's-
the infrastructure, practical concerns are
We find-
natural
Someone
constraint,
finds oil out there and it's gonna pay for it, and we've already did it.
and then it's ours.
So can we add that to this?
Would we fight the county for that, or?
We would not fight the county. The county doesn't have a dog in this hunt because the county's taxes and revenues and everything is based off of a completely different tier of interest and taxation and whatever else. In fact, the county might like us to annex things because then we have policing and fire responsibilities in these areas and not the county.
Yeah.
So
But only if we end up incorporating.
only if we actually do annex. So again, this is a wish list.
Yeah.
I think it does pretty good, honestly. And the
No, this
stands,
is fair. This doesn't go to Wendover. I just wonder why not.
yeah.
We're gonna take Greenland, let's take Wendover.
I'm gonna bite my tongue on that one.
Okay, all right. It's just interesting, and yeah,
Yeah.
annexation is interesting.
The whole,
You do pose a great question. If you're going to go there, why don't we look out another 50 years and say, okay, if this is a 25-year plan, what's my 50-year plan? And why don't we?
so that's a very good question. This isn't the document for that.
Okay.
That's when we get to our update of our general plan here in the next little bit. Hopefully, if we can get some grant funding that we've applied for, then we will look deeper into that. But for now, this is just saying, if these people were to annex, we get the first bite of that apple.
Just to clarify, the way I understand it, if someone came in that was outside of this, they can still come to Grantsville and say, hey, we'd like to annex into Grantsville, and that would be entertained as long as the cities felt like they could support it.
Potentially, yeah. So it would be unusual, but let's say someone in the Skull Valley was like, I really, really, really want to be in Grantsville. Okay. How are you gonna make that happen, landowner out there? It would make more sense for them to do the Eagle Mountain route and just incorporate out there in Skull Valley on their own. Just because the topography is in the way.
Well, Skull Valley could come out and say, I really want to be a part of URBA. Could they?
That would be tougher because they have to leapfrog us in order to do that. And the state code really kind of emphasizes the idea that we want contiguous properties and no islands.
So if, for example, someone in area A, or let's say area B, outside of the disputed area that we're all aware of, wanted to annex into Erda, but it's in the county right now. Erda would need permission from Grantsville at this point to, once this is passed, to annex that property in, because it's in our expansion policy. Once it's in a city's expansion policy, another municipality needs that municipality's permission before it can annex any of that land.
Isn't this
a
a
cat and mouse game between municipalities then right here, is what we're playing?
a little bit?
Well, we're trying to secure the areas that make sense for Grantsville.
We're looking out for our interests.
Isn't this a great map, by the way? I want to give a shout out to Taylor for making the map for us. She did a really good job. The only difference between these two maps, by the way, is that one includes the water area and one includes just the land areas. So if you have a preference on either one, and now would be the time to let me know. Personally, I think that one depicting just the land area makes a little more sense. Including the water it's all state owned land under and around the water. So it looks good maybe on a map, but
It's water for now.
But we don't want to mitigate what's
We'll talk again
underwater
tomorrow.
when it dries,
We
so.
also on the disputed part up here above B,
Uh-huh.
there's still a little section there between B and A that's not covered. Is
Just
there a
over-
reason why
up to
that's
the
not
overlap.
covered?
I believe that's because that's state land and there wasn't any real need to include that. Again, most of that stuff up there is either Morton Salt Company or state-owned Sitla or the state of Utah land. So,
So is it the staff recommendation to approve just one of these maps?
yeah,
Is that the idea? And
one or
you're-
the other.
And you're saying the land one makes more sense?
I think so. But we've got both as an option for you at the request of certain former elected officials.
You have any other questions for Bill?
No,
Okay,
Okay,
I don't. Sorry, I don't.
anybody, okay. I
now would
think-
be the time for the public hearing.
Yeah, I like that format better. Then you don't have to come up to the podium twice. Unless you really want to, but. Okay, so we will open the public hearing for agenda item 3. If there's anybody who'd like to state public comment, could approach the podium. Is there anybody online? If there's somebody online who'd like to make a public comment on agenda item 3, please raise your hand.
There's no one online.
Okay, fantastic. We'll close that public hearing then. I see no further public comment opportunities. Sorry, I should follow the script better. So the public hearing for agenda item 3 is closed, and we will bring this item back to the commission for discussion and consideration.
Is there a reason why we would maybe not forego map number 1 that does cover part of the water? I mean, it just, I know maybe being a little weird, but maybe just contingency factors for the future, or is it, do we even worry about that?
I'm not sure, Gary, I think.
I personally don't see any reason why we want to be out into the water and why it would matter to us.
Then we have
We're not gonna get
services out there
utilities
for
out
rescue
there.
services.
It would be,
Right?
it would be not, I don't think it'd be feasible. I don't see its value. I'm a fan of the second map. That's me.
So we'll call that map number 2.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion. Unless are we done with discussion?
I'd like to see some more out to Wendover, but if this is what we're dealing with.
Can't we?
There's always one, man.
Guess you're on the planning commission for the next 20 years.
figure it
That's what you're doing. Okay, make note of that, Shelby.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Gary.
I move to recommend the approval of the proposed Grantsville City annexation plan and forward a positive recommendation on map 2 to the city council.
We have seconds.
Second.
Jason, super. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Fantastic. Okay, we will close that item, and the next agenda item is the approval of the commission meeting minutes from February 17th, 2026. Planning Commission regular meeting. Are there any comments or corrections that anybody saw from that?
Yes, I saw one correction that is needed. This is on, sorry, let me get there. This is on the property, when we did the conditional use permit, we said that it passed 4-1, when it should be passed 3-1. I'm trying to get to that area right here, sorry.
Oh, good catch.
This is, yeah, so it's under the, I don't want to say this, the agenda item number 1. Because we list on there who voted for it, but then we say there were only 4 of us, but then we say it passed 4-1 instead of 3-1.
That's a great catch. I did not even notice that.
That's all I had on there.
Hey, I agree. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the added, or the edit that Gary brought up from the February 17th, 2026 Planning Commission regular meetings.
I'll second. Okay, all in favor?
I,
Aye. Thank you. We'll close that agenda item and move on to agenda item 5, finally, report from city staff.
I don't have anything, but thank you guys for being here. We really do appreciate you dedicating your time, and just know that staff's here to answer any questions that you guys have.
Thank you, Shelby.
I don't think you know yet about our planning conference in April. What are the dates again? The 8th through the 10th,
Yes.
I want to say? Sound right?
Yes.
Would you be available to go to a planning conference? The 8th to the 10th. We've heard from you, and who else?
I committed, right?
I think so.
I
Those
did
were the
commit,
two.
so.
Some of us need to be committed, but
I believe so, but I would need to confirm with my wife,
okay,
who's
fair,
important in my life. To
What's
check with
that?
things like this.
very fair.
Where's that conference at, Bill?
It's in Bryce Canyon,
Okay.
so
Is there a time frame you need?
as soon as possible. We'd like to get everybody signed up and registered for that as soon as possible. So, okay.
Okay, thank you.
And the extra meeting on March
24th,
24th,
I think.
which is an off Tuesday. And we were gonna meet at 6, right?
yes. 6 PM, 6
Okay.
days will we have.
Come hungry. We'll bring some food in and have a nice training / discussion workshop.
I have on my calendar 6:30,
Okay, 6:30 is fine.
just.
That's right, because someone needed extra time to get
Some
in.
of us travel from Salt Lake, and
Okay,
you
fair.
can never
What was
depend
that
on
date
the.
again?
24th of March.
That's just an extra meeting is what we're talking about.
Correct. It's a training /
Short meeting.
work session, workshop
Right here in this room.
right here in this room.
And Bill's bringing smoked brisket, cornbread.
Brisket and cornbread, is that what the request was?
Smoked sausages and.
Whatever, I get anything, so.
Pork and beans.
And then-
Okay,
Do you have anything else?
nope, that's it.
I'm sorry, I lied. I have a few things. I am proposing a work meeting April 15th with Planning Commission and City Council for the master transportation plan. They'll be presenting to City Council on the 15th, but we would like to extend that invite to Planning Commission. I just need to know if y'all can attend so that we can notice it.
I will be out of town on a work event that day.
I just,
I'm available. That's tax day, so it's kind of burdensome from the government already, but I could probably come to a meeting.
Not our tax.
Shelby, is that like a work meeting before council meeting or just inviting them to the council meeting?
So it's ultimately up to you and City Council if you want Jones and DeMille to present during City Council, which was assumed, or if you want them to come prior at like 6 PM to City Council.
If we have people that can't get here at 6 o'clock, then we shouldn't have a meeting at 6. So.
Would it be a discussion item only or?
Just discussion only, no consideration. They just want to present their update. It was required in the motion when approving the master transportation plan contract.
Can we do it in 30 minutes?
I was thinking,
so if it was just discussion, maybe some of us could join while we're driving and not make everybody change that
Can
as
we do it in
opposed
30
to.
minutes is the question. Or do we need an hour?
find out.
I would probably say an hour.
We're proposing at 6 and that'll be from 6 to 7 is what we're thinking then.
Either at 7 PM as regularly scheduled City Council meeting.
So would that be the majority of the topic of discussion for that council meeting then? Or
What day was?
April 15th.
or should it require a separate work, like meeting at 6 before? I guess the length of the council meeting would kind of determine.
So you can determine your schedule as well, so I mean,
Right.
if you have 15 requests, you want to reduce it. But ultimately up to you.
That one should be pretty open unless all the bombs and everything gets kicked a week. And then it'll
Yeah.
be really hot.
And that's what we did. Thank you. That's what we tried avoiding was the bonds or anything like that.
I think if we're having a discussion with the planning commission regarding that, I think a meeting at 6 would be maybe a better format for that, but I know that 6 is hard for people that are
Try to
traveling.
do 6:30 and split the day a little bit.
Yeah, we could do that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Could we have it on the 14th instead during your planning commission
I mean,
at
assuming
7?
so. I don't know.
Jones and DeMille be there.
Yeah, they can flip flop. It was just, city council wanted them to present to city council, but if you guys want to have the work session during the planning commission, we can make that work as well.
Let me check my personal life schedule here.
Okay. Anyways, keep that on your mind. If y'all could get back to me as soon as possible, that would be greatly appreciated.
So if we do it during the planning commission meeting, we get these chairs in city council. seats.
Exactly. That's what we're doing.
Sandwich thing.
You are spot on.
I can do
But-
14.
Does it really provide that much value to have a joint work meeting? Or just encourage the planning commissioners to attend the city council meeting that day so they can hear in on the presentation?
It was more of an encouragement, but either way, we would have to do a public notice
Because
as
we'd all
planning
be there.
commission.
Cause you
Yeah.
have more
You see
than
how slick
2
Brett made that? He wants to
members.
sit in his chair.
He wants to sit in this chair.
He's
I'm
got
gonna
a
sit in the
comfy
red
chair.
Okay.
I don't care either way. It doesn't matter to me.
I'm good.
These chairs are a lot comfier than the ones we used to have.
Yes, thank you.
Way comfier.
So you need a decision from this body by tomorrow at 5?
Maybe by the end of this week, if I
By
can
the
get
end of
the
this
decision,
week?
does that give you enough time?
Okay, tomorrow.
Okay.
And then they would like to do an open house April 30th, which is a Thursday. We tried avoiding a meeting week. Does that work for everyone?
An open house for,
I mean, is there an issue having it that week? For the master transportation plan to have public input and feedback.
that would be great. I might be at a transportation conference.
I mean, it's not a required attendance from planning
Okay.
commission or city council. I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
And then we have a few proposed work meetings. From developers.
Okay.
And so, is that something that we're wanting to pursue like before a meeting, like the planning commission or a city council meeting, or is that something we want to do during the 7 to 9 PM? Planning commission.
I'm
mayor.
open to others' feedback on that.
We could do,
Can you tell me what that is?
So I mean, they would just come in, bring their concepts, see what your appetite is, see if there's any discussion or, proposed changes, maybe we don't like this road here or something staff doesn't see and just have a discussion of what your thoughts are, but is that something that you would rather come in a half hour or an hour earlier at 6 PM or just have at the regularly scheduled meeting?
So normal meetings, I haven't attended or listened to a lot of these. Are they normally the same length of time or then let's try to do it. I would say during a normal meeting then,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
our
That's what I would
normal
vote for.
meetings are kind of standard, but the work meetings with developers they could be really short or they could be quite long.
Yeah, so I mean, we would
My
make sure
first
that
one
they're
went to
allotted
1
only an hour.
With how many developers was that?
When?
One developer?
We would allot them only 1 hour.
Okay.
So,
Who enforces the hour?
Well, you could.
I could, I just want to make sure.
You could take on that hat.
Okay. That would be my preference. But
I'm with you. I think we can try to make it within there if we give them a time frame, so you've got this much time and then I'll support that.
Okay. Sounds like we're okay doing that during a commission meeting.
Maybe that'll be a learning experience for the back.
Well, yeah, let's try it. My first meeting, we were here till 11. I didn't know if I'd come back or not.
So they'd like a,
We're talking about horses.
they would
No.
like a combined work meeting with
That's what I was
planning
gonna
commission
make it-
and city council if possible.
Horses could be no longer.
Roosters might have come up though at some point.
So I was gonna send out a doodle calendar poll, to see what everybody's schedules were on that. I just haven't had time, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. It would, I mean, it would be, in my eyes, easier to do it on an already scheduled meeting date and not trying to find other dates. And so either we have it during that scheduled meeting time from 7 to 9 or before.
Shelby went from nothing to a whole lot.
I do every dang staff meeting. I'm like, I don't think I have anything, but I do that. I know how that feels. My schedule is pretty much open. I can make any day work but Friday.
Okay.
Usually. I don't know what the rest of the commission members going on other nights that might be static or cause problems.
I mean, it's variable, but I've committed to what I can already, so.
Same, mine's variable with kids' activities,
Perfect.
but if I don't have kids' activities, my job, I'm pretty flexible.
Yeah, I think we would just send out the poll for a date and then we can kind of date it.
Absolutely.
That's great, Mayor. Thank you.
Perfect. That's all I have. Anything, Nicole? Okay.
Okay. Tan, thank you for those maps again. Appreciate that. Okay. We'll close that item and we will move on to agenda item 6, open forum for planning commissioners. This is just a period during the meeting where we want to bring up other items to discuss or,
I have one.
okay. Vice Chair.
Maybe this goes back to Bill in the city, but I would like to see maybe some training on conflicts of interest and how we disclose that going forward and just as we work through that, because I think I'd like to make sure we're clear on when and where, when we need to do that and how.
That's a good point, and I think that's something that we can talk about in a couple of weeks when we have our workshop.
If we can add that to it, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, perfect.
Sounds good.
Good idea, Jason. Gary, do you have anything?
I've talked with another buddy of mine who sits on planning and zoning for West Valley and telling him about how our agenda and how our meetings flow. And he was telling about his meetings, which I like. He says their first meeting of the month is always a work meeting to get a lot of information. And then their second meeting is always kind of their main planning and zoning. And then whatever happened that second meeting gets kicked then to the city council 2 weeks after that. He was real nice because he can sit down in that work meeting and really dive in. I don't know if that's maybe an idea to start looking at a different format rather than trying to say, hey, we're going to do something today and then give it to the city council tomorrow. Do they have enough time to digest what and then maybe our recommendation doesn't mean anything anyways, but I kind of like what he's saying is that it really gives them time to bring developers in or whoever and really grill them and give them time so that we can not rush through a process and rush through a decision. I don't know if it's something we want to discuss further or just table it, or I just thought it was a really good idea, like have a work session, then a planning session.
That's interesting. Shelby?
So we initially would have a discussion first on the first meeting and a consideration on the second meeting. But then it never worked out where it was the discussion and then the consideration. It was just the discussion, 4 more meetings till we.
Yeah.
And so.
Especially with developers. That's why we need work meetings.
That is why we took that or removed that, I guess, format, but that's something we can definitely look back at.
I'm not saying this is the right, I'm just saying it's another idea.
Yeah.
And we're talking about having a work meeting with the developer. When I have that as a standard for the first meeting, then if we give that approval, then the city council would have at least 2 weeks to.
Yeah.
Look at that and digest as well and go over it and pick it apart.
The other thing is that our developers are used to having meetings every 2 weeks and they like that, so they can predict when the next session is and they can get an approval or some sort of discussion at that meeting instead of having to wait a whole month to get a decision.
I guess my counter to that was if we did have the work meeting. I see you're saying my counter's gonna be really bad, Bill, so I'm just gonna shut up.
Counter.
No, I would say it's valid, but you also gotta factor in the complexity of some of those things, and that's what the mayor and I are gonna take note on our agenda is how complex some of those things are and whether that should be put on that agenda the next day or the week after.
2 weeks after.
Yeah, I would almost recommend, if there's an approval given today, it should be on the city council agenda in 2 weeks,
Yeah,
regardless.
it just depends on the complexity of that.
Yeah,
If
I-
it's like something simple that doesn't need to be briefed on that could be posted, and so again, that's something we keep an eye on and watch. So we do take note of that, but we are watching that because we don't want to overcrowd our agenda either.
Yeah, because I also think like, if we did go back to the work meeting format, the work meetings sometimes could be really short and the council, the P and Z could be extremely long, but right now so there's pros and cons. But I just thought the idea was one to discuss and see if it's a good idea or not.
Yep. Thanks for bringing that up and thanks for your comments, Michael. Red, did you have something to say about that?
Well, I mean, we've seen it the past month or so where we've had discussions and considerations in this meeting, and it's moved immediately to city council the next day. And that was never the way that these meetings were intended to be. There should be some time there, I believe, between the really your consideration and then our discussion and approval. But I mean, obviously looking at one that we're doing tomorrow that we just
Talked
you
about
guys just
today,
gave
yeah,
us
I
your
saw that.
consideration today. So, and I understand the simplicity of some of these and trying to push them through it, but it wasn't like that earlier in the month of February though. So there was one that was fairly complex and came back right away. So
Yeah.
I'd probably counsel against that. So that's just my thoughts. But I guess you could pose it how you like, and then we can table it if we want to, right? If we don't think it's given enough time.
Well, maybe we'll make it through one work meeting first. Cameron, what do you think?
I don't know, I haven't experienced it enough, it makes sense to sit on it, I think. But again, if it's a simple issue, it wouldn't make sense to kick it down the can or the road for 2 weeks, but. I don't know, that seems like a city council issue, not an us issue, so.
You're pushing out buttons tonight.
Well, no, I mean, that's,
Keep it so fun.
I guess, oh, sorry, Mr. Keegan, I have a comment, is that right? So.
No, that's good.
So just maybe for commissioners who've been here longer, so for example, that map, right, so we recommend map 2. City council would ultimately have the decision, so city council then could come and say, well, we like map 1, right, that's how it works. So, and I guess this is what Bill will probably teach us in that workshop, I'm really curious about the purpose behind this meeting.
On the workshop,
Yeah, well, just understanding like,
Planning and
we're
zoning
sending
in general.
recommendations to city council, they're gonna review all the same stuff we already looked at, and if they don't like it, they just do what they want anyway, so this is what I look forward to you teaching us what our role is as planning
Yeah.
commissioners, because it seems like a layer of government that maybe doesn't need to exist, and I'm just curious, I need to be educated.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit more probably in our workshop, but the short answer is that state code requires a recommendation for legislative items before the council can take any action. So you're not only not redundant, you are absolutely essential to the process. And they cannot make a decision without a recommendation from the planning commission. They might ignore the recommendation from the planning commission. They might make changes, they might just whatever, but if they don't have a recommendation from this body, they can't take action on it. So.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Bill,
Yes.
while you're there, just real quick. So if we recommend something to the council and the council denies it, is there another layer of appeals, right? There's one more board that they could.
So if on a legislative item, they can appeal to district court, right?
They,
We have the Board of Adjustment as our first
yeah, that's what I was
level
trying to come up
of
with.
appeals for any decision by city council. But after that, it would go to the district court
Okay.
for the
And
opinion.
I
But if
will,
we don't send the recommendation, it can't even be appealed, is that?
so State code actually has changed in the last couple of years to address that. If the planning commission, after having a meeting and tabling it for a certain period of time, can't come to a decision, whether it's the vote just fails or, what, no decision is made, that's considered to be a negative recommendation and goes on to the city council as such.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
So lack of recommendation is a recommendation eventually.
it's a negative recommendation. Yeah, it's a recommendation to deny.
We have that in our code, so
Yeah.
if you don't make it past 4 meetings, then it's a negative recommendation.
Yeah, you don't just sit and spin your wheels because that's hard on the applicants as well.
Yeah.
And expensive.
Yeah,
Well, this was fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
I like talking about horses and swimming pools. It's fun.
Too bad you missed all the conversations about roosters. Maybe
They'll be back.
revisit those. Okay. That was good. That was good discussion. So Gary, are you okay if we go through a work meeting or two?
Absolutely, yeah,
and then
for
we
sure.
can
Yep.
come back to that
100%.
idea and see if maybe then we have a little bit more experience and to address that question, and maybe we could alter something. We are practicing a new format of this meeting and last meeting, which is, I think, your 2 meetings that you've been here. So it's a change. We are good for improvement, right? Okay, we'll close that item. Unless, Cameron, did you have anything
No.
that you wanted to
No,
bring
thank
up?
you.
I don't have anything, but thank you for all your thoughtfulness and the discussion. It's always good. We will move on to item 7, the report from city council.
Okay, so I don't have anything specific from the city council for you guys today. But I am super impressed with the way you guys have started off, and you guys are off to a great start. And appreciate your engagement and everything you guys are this commission is providing so much value to the city. So thank you. Is there anything specific that you would like me to take back to the city council in the meeting tomorrow?
Nothing for me.
I don't think I have anything, but I'd like to thank you and the council members for always trying to help us understand what our role is and support us in that. And I'm sorry I missed the groundbreaking again, but I understand it was good. So I won't miss the next one. That'll be good. And I do look forward to the open house for the transportation plan. So
We
thank
could have
you.
gone to the groundbreaking and gotten a shovel.
I don't think we are deserving of a shovel.
What
I
if we
think
brought our
that
own
is
shovel?
just an honor.
Shovel away.
There you go. Red's
Okay.
on board. So you just need to probably let him know in advance that you're bringing your own shovel. Maybe he can get you one. Maybe we
Maybe
can
mine.
graduate to the golden shovels and the golden
Look at that.
hats that like Salt Lake Council has. Nothing else, Rhett?
But nothing else.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll close that and move on to agenda item 8, adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second. Oh, yeah. Go.
Gary, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.